We continue now at the top of Daf Ayin Aleph Amud Aleph and Mesechet Sanhedrin. This is Sanhedrin Daf 71a. And the previous Amud, the Gemara brought a brisa which said that if a Kohen eats the figs of Ke'ilah, or he drinks honey or milk, and he enters the Beis HaMikdash in an intoxicated state, chayiv, he is considered liable in such a situation. Rashi explains, chayiv mishum v'yayin v'sheicher al teisht, because it says again, the Kohen is not allowed to be intoxicated when he enters the Mikdash. With a Kohen askinan, we're talking about a Kohen over here in this brisa, and the point is, even though these items can be intoxicating, and there is liability when it comes to entering the Beis HaMikdash, that does not apply by Ben Sorah Umorah. Ben Sorah Umorah, again, is specifically meat and wine, and it would not apply to the figs, it would not apply to the honey and the milk. And the Gemara continues with the two dots. The Mishnah said, Eino nasa ben sorah umorah ad sheyochal basar v'yishteh yayin. He's not a ben sorah umorah until he eats meat and drinks wine. Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, achal kol maichel v'lo achal basar. If he eats any kind of food but he doesn't eat meat, shasa kol mashke v'lo shasa yayin. If he drinks any kind of drink but he doesn't drink wine, Eino nasa ben sorah umorah. He's not going to become a ben sorah umorah. Ad sheyachal basar v'yishteh yayin, until he eats meat and he drinks wine. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, zolel v'sovei v'yafal b'shein rai l'davar. Now, even though there's no proof that it's referring specifically to meat and wine, but zeichel l'davar, there's a hint to this. Shenemar, as it says, alti b'sovei yayin b'zolele basar lamo. It uses these same words in reference to drinking wine and in reference to eating the meat. V'yomer, it also says kisove v'zolel yivaresh. It says the person who becomes drunk, he's going to be yivaresh, he's going to become poor. Ukroim talbish numa, and the person who sleeps a lot, who has drowsiness, he's going to wear rags. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabbi Zeir. Rabbi Zeir says, Kol hayashim bebeis hamedrash. We can darshan this pasuk as follows, that anyone who sleeps in the beis medrash, Toraso nasis lo karoim, so his Torah becomes like torn pieces, meaning to say, he forgets his Torah learning. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, Ukaroim tal bishnuma, again a reference to the fact that he's sleeping, in this case, in the beis medrash, and that's going to cause him to forget his learning. And Rashi explains, Kisove v'zola yivaresh, again the drunkard and the glutton, he's going to become poor. Basar krakamaksiv, this pasuk the Gemara is bringing, is after that other pasuk the Gemara just brought, Lahachi aisi lahachi, that's why it's brought over here. Yivaresh, he's going to become poor. Sofo liosani, he'll be a poor person. Umevakesh limudo ve'no motzi, he's going to need to find that which he needs. In this case, again, he needs the meat, he needs the wine, and he's not going to find it. Ukram talbish numa nomish adam isgaraba talbish karoim kilomar sof kol bal hanos. The point over here is anybody who is involved in these kinds of pleasures, so lovely de anios, he's going to become poor. And then we darshan nasa lo karoim, that his learning becomes karoim, meaning mishkach limudo, he forgets his learning, ve'no nizkar ela b'seirug, and he remembers it, but he doesn't remember it in order. It's remembered in a way where the Torah learning is not kept. It's not kept permanent in his mind. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Gonav mishal aviv yachal b'reshus aviv. Let's say he steals from his father and he eats in the property of his father, or mishal acherim v'yachal b'reshus acherim, where he steals from others, not his father, and he eats in the property of others. Mishal acherim v'yachal b'reshus aviv, or let's say he eats from others and eats in the property of his father. In all of those cases, eino nasa ben sorah umorah, he does not become a ben sorah umorah. At sheyignov mishal aviv, it has to be that he steals from his father, v'yochal b'reshus acherim, and he eats in the property of others. And the Mishnah continues, Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda says that sheyignov mishal aviv umishal imo, he has to steal from his father and from his mother. And the Gemara says, Ganav mishal aviv yachal b'reshus aviv. Let's say he steals from his father and eats in his father's property. Afagav d'shchiach le. Now, even though he's stealing it in a place where it's frequent for him, so it's easy for him to do this again, but he's afraid because he's in his father's house, and therefore that will prevent him from being drawn after this behavior. And mishal acherim v'yachal b'reshus acherim. Let's say he steals from others and he eats in their property. Afagav de lo bois, even though he's not afraid, he's no longer in the presence of his father, but lo shchiach le, but it's harder for him to come to this, and therefore again he won't be drawn after it. And certainly when he steals from others and eats in the property of his father, it's not easy for him to get access. Uvois, and he's afraid. It has to be both. It has to be that he's stealing from his father and he's eating in other people's property, that it's easy access for him, and he's not afraid. That's what becomes a ben sorah umorah. And the Gemara continues, Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda says he has to steal from both his father and his mother. Imo menola, and so the Gemara asks, where does his mother have any property of her own from? Mashakonsa isha kanabala, whatever a wife acquires, that really belongs to her husband. And the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina says, Misuuda hamuchenes la'aviv ulimo. He's stealing from a meal that was prepared for his father and his mother. But the Gemara continues and asks, V'amar Rabbi Chanan bar Molada, Rav Huna didn't Rabbi Chanan bar Molada say that Rav Huna said, Eino chayv ad sheyikne basar bezol v'yochal yayin bezol v'yishte. He only becomes a ben sorah mora when he purchases the meat, when he purchases the wine. So in this case, if he's stealing directly the food from his father and his mother, that would not qualify. And so the Gemara says, Elaima rather say as follows, Midmei Seuda, Hamuchenes la'avavu li'imo, from the money for a meal that was prepared for his father and his mother, that's what he takes, and that's how he can be stealing from both his father and his mother. Ibai same if you want, I could say another answer, Da'akni lo'acher, somebody else gave over something to the mother of Yamar lo and said to her, Almanas shein lebalech rishus ben, that I'm giving it on the condition that your husband does not have any rishus, he doesn't have any authority over this property. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Haya aviv rotza v'imo eino rotza. Let's say his father wants, but his mother does not want. Or aviv eino rotza v'imo rotza. Or let's say his father does not want, but his mother wants. Eino nasa ben sorah mora at shehu shnehem rotzim. He does not become a ben sorah mora until they both want to bring him in front of the court. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda says, Im lo haisa imo ru'uya la'aviv. If his mother is not fit for his father, which the Gemara will explain, eino nasa ben sorah mora. He does not become a ben sorah mora. And the Gemara says, Mai eina ru'uya, what does it mean that his mother is not fit for his father? Ilema chayve krisas v'chayve misas bezin. If you're going to say what it means is she's not fit to marry the father. It's a situation where it's an arayas relationship, maybe it's a chi of kares, a liability of kares, or it's subject to the death penalty. If you're going to say that's what it means, but sof avua ninu, v'ime ninu, but still, that father is still his father, the mother is still his father, there's no halacha that they have to actually be married. So rather, what does the Mishnah mean? Ella rather b'shavel liyaviv ka'amar. What it really means is the mother is the same as the father, as we will now explain. Tanya nami hachi, we have a brisa like this as well. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda says, Im lo haisa imo shavel la'aviv. If the mother is not the same as the father, meaning b'kolu v'maro v'koma, she has to have the same voice. The mother and father have to have a similar voice, a similar look, and a similar height. And if not, eino nasa ben sorah mora. If not, then he does not become a ben sorah mora. My time, and what's the reason for this? The Yamar Krutz, because the pasuk says, "Einenu shomea bekolenu." It says he doesn't listen to our voice. Midakol ba'inan shavin. So we learn from bekolenu that the voice has to be the same, and from the fact that the voice has to be the same, marav v'komanami ba'inan shavin. So too, when it comes to the look and the height, that also has to be the same. And the Gemara continues, Kemanos lahadatanya. Who does the following brisa follow? It says in the brisa, Ben sorah mora lohaya v'lo asid lios. An actual ben sorah mora never happened and never will happen. V'lo manichtav. And why was the parsha written in the Torah? Drosh v'kabel schar. It's in order to darshan it, in order to receive the reward for learning it. And the Gemara says, Keman, Rabbi Yehuda. Who does that follow? It follows Rabbi Yehuda, who says there are all these requirements that the mother has to be just like the father. The idea being that it doesn't actually happen in practicality. And the Gemara continues, if you want, I could say Rabbi Shimon here, that Bryce is actually Rabbi Shimon. The Tanya, because we learned in a Bryce, some Rabbi Shimon says, and just because this person ate a tartimar of meat, and he drank a half a lug of wine, hoitalki, Italian wine, just because of that, his father and his mother bring him out to get stoned. Ella rather, lohaya v'lo lios, it never was, and it never will happen. And why was it written, Drosh v'kabel schar? It's in order to darshan, in order to receive a reward. Amar Rabbi Yonasan says, Ani ra'isiv v'yashafti al kivro. I actually saw a ben sorah mora and I sat on his grave. It actually did happen. And the Gemara continues, Kaman Azla Hadatanya, who does the following brisa follow? Ir Hanidachas lo Haisa v'lo Asida Lios, and Ir Hanidachas, which again is a city that's destroyed because the inhabitants worshipped Avodah Zarah. It never happened, it never will happen. V'laman Nichtav, on why was it written? Drosh v'kabel schar, it's in order to darshan and get reward. Kaman Rabbi Eliezer, who does that follow? It follows Rabbi Eliezer. The Tanya, as we learned in a brisa, Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Eliezer says, Kol Ir sheyesh ba afilu mezuzah achas, any city that even has one mezuzah, ein anasas Ir Hanidachas, cannot become an Ir Hanidachas. My time, what's the reason? Because Amar Kruk, because the pasuk says, Ves kol shlola tikbot zel toch rechova, v'saraf beish, it says you have to take everything in the city into the middle of the city and you have to burn it in fire. V'chevan diika mezuzah lo efshar, and since if there was a mezuzah in the city, that would not be possible. You can't burn the name of Hashem. T'chsiv, as it's written, lo sa'as unkein la Hashem alokechem, it says you can't do that to Hashem. You can't erase the name of Hashem. You can't destroy the name of Hashem, and therefore it's something that will never happen. You're always going to have something with the name of Hashem, like a mezuzah, brisa in the city. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabbi Yonasan says, Ani Risia, I saw an Ir Anidachas, V'yashafti al Til, and I sat above the ruins of the Ir Anidachas. And the Gemara continues, Kaman Ozla Hadatanya, who does the following brisa, who does it follow? Bayis HaMenuga, a house that has leprosy, that has saras, Lo Hayev Lo Asid Lios, it never was, it never will be. V'lama Nichtav, and why was it written, Drosh V'kabel Schar, it's to darshan and receive a reward. Kaman Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon, who does it follow? It follows Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon, the Tanan, because we learned in the Mishnah. Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon says, Li'olam in Habayis Tami, the house is not Tami, it's not impure. At Shayira Keshtei Grisen al Shtei Avonim, B'Shtei Ksalim B'Keren Zavis, it has to be the size of 2 gris on 2 stones that are on 2 walls. It's specifically at the corner. That's where you have to have the nega. Orcho Keshnei Grisen, it has to be the length like 2 grisen. V'Rachvo Kegris, it has to be the width of a gris. And the Gemara says, my time at Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon. What's the reason of Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon of all these requirements? Because Ksiv, because it's written Kir, the wall. Uchsiv Kiros, but it also says the walls. Eizehu Kir Shu Kekiros. Now, what is a wall that's like walls? Haviomer Zeh Keren Zavis. We have to say that refers to the Keren Zavis. It has to refer to the corner where 2 walls come together. And the Gemara continues, Tanya, we learned in a brayso, some Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Tzadok. Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Tzadok said, Makom Haya B'Tchum Aza. There was a place in the boundary of Aza, V'Hayakorna Sa Chorvasa Segirta, and they called it Chorvasa Segirta, and they referred to it as a leprous ruin. And Amar Rabbi Shimon Ish Kfarako, and Rabbi Shimon Ish Kfarako said, Pamachas Halachti Lo Galil. I once went to Galil, V'Ro'isi Makom Shemetzayin, so I saw a place that they were marking it off. V'Yomer, when they said, Avonim Menugos Pinu L'Sham, this is the place where the stones, which have the nega, which have the tsaras on them here, they cleared them, they put them in this area, and so you see from these statements that there in fact were houses that had tsaras. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, let's say one of them, meaning one of the parents, if one of the parents is Gidem, doesn't have hands, or Chiger is not able to walk, or Ilem is a mute, or Suma is blind, or Cheresh is deaf, Einonasa ben Sora Mora, then the son cannot become a ben Sora Mora. Shenemar, as it says in the Pasuk, V'sof Subo Avavimo, it says that his father and his mother, they grab him, V'lo Gidman, so they can't be Gidman, they can't be without hands. V'hotzio, so it says, and they take him out, V'lo Chigrin, so they can't be lame, there has to be that they're able to walk. V'amro, and they say, V'lo Ilman, they can't be mute. B'neinu Zeh, they have to say, this son of ours, V'lo Suman, so they can't be blind. Einenu Shomea B'koleinu, he doesn't listen to our voice, V'lo Chershin, they can't be deaf. Ma'asrin Bo B'fnei Shlosha, we then warn him in front of 3 people, U'malkanoso, and we give him lashes. Chazer V'kilkal, if again he commits the same sin, Nidon B'yesrim U'shlosha, then he's judged by a court of 23. V'eino Niskal, and he does not get stoned, Ad Sheyusham Shlosha Rishonim, until you have those original 3 judges who he was given lashes in front of, they have to be present. Shenemar, as it says in the Pasuk, B'neinu Zeh, our son, and we darshan Zeh Shaloka B'fnechem, this one that was given lashes in front of you. And the Gemara says, Shamat mina, do we see from here, Ba'inan Krakid Ichsiv, that the Pasuk, we have to interpret it exactly as it's written, because the Mishnah here is interpreting the Pasuk very literally. They have to be able to literally grab him with hands, etc. And the Gemara says, Shani Hacha, it's different over here. And Rashi explains, Masrin Bo, again it said, we warn the Ben Sora Mora in front of 3 people. Lav Misham Hasra Gemura Kishar Averis. This warning over here is not the standard warning that's given by other Averis, that you always give a warning before the punishment in order to have the punishment. She'ein Loken Ela Behasra, because the halacha is that you can only get Malchus with a warning. Toha Hasra as Eidim Boy, because that kind of Hasra is done with Eidim, with 2 witnesses. V'yod Zu Safik Hasra, and also, this is really a Safik Hasra, it's a warning given out of a doubt. Im over who im lav, if he's going to transgress, if not, shalom miyad b'fneim over, because this is not talking about a situation where immediately in front of them after the warning he's going to transgress, he's going to commit the act. Ela b'seiser, he's going to do this in a private manner. Ulachar zmanuos, he's going to do this after some time. Ela mochichano, so rather the warning over here is more of a tochacha, is more of explaining to him a musar, to ba'inan v'yisru oso shalo yargel, you need v'yisru so that they should speak to him, that he shouldn't be accustomed to this kind of behavior. V'imlo shaman, if he doesn't listen to that, malkin oso bebezdin, then they're going to give him lashes in court. V'yolif lo mi v'yisro oso, and that is learned out from the pasuk of v'yisro oso. And then the Gemara said, Shamat mina b'inan krakid ichsiv. Do we see from here that we interpret the pasuk literally as written? V'siyata de Shmuel, this would then be a support for Shmuel. B'perak nigmar hadin, Shmuel said this earlier. He said this idea that krakid ichsiv, so this would then be a support for that. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Ayin Aleph Amid Beis.